Hello everyone, many thanks for joining us today to look at Power BI. I'm Warren Butler, Head of Marketing at Preact, and I'm joined by my colleague Daniel Hunter, who will be leading the demonstration. Just a few bits of housekeeping before we kick off. We've set all the lines to mute to remove any background noise, but you can use the question panel to raise any points as we go, and we will go through a Q&A session at the end. We are recording the presentation, so this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel later on today, and we'll also send a link out on email to this. Just as a quick agenda, so Power BI was released 2 years ago, and it's very quickly made a huge impact in making business intelligence widely accessible and transforming the way that many organizations are analyzing their data. In this session, we'll provide an overview of Power BI. We'll take a look at how its dashboards and visualizations enable new insights to be gained to demonstrate how this helps businesses shift to a culture of modern business intelligence that's focused on data-driven decision-making. Whether you're new to Power BI or you're an existing user, we hope you'll find this useful. And then following the main presentation, we'll be on hand to answer your questions. A bit of background about us. Preact is a CRM partner leading with Microsoft Dynamics 365. We provide help to implement and support all Dynamics 365 and CRM related requirements. In many instances, we do this through a managed service agreement. In addition to phone support, this includes training, consultancy, and development work, which enables organizations to delegate Dynamics tasks to our team and get access to advice that will help to improve and extend the benefits of their system. And that can include configuring new Power BI dashboards and charts. Trading since 1993, today Preact supports more than 7,000 Dynamics users across multiple industry sectors. If you aren't currently working with a Dynamics partner, and you want to find out more about what Preact offers, then please do get in touch with us. Before kicking off the demonstration, we'll start with a high-level view. Essentially, Power BI is all about enabling you to experience your data any way and anywhere you want. That data can be in the cloud or on-premise. Whereas Power BI was previously very much focused on the cloud, today there is symmetry between on-prem and cloud, which means hybrid deployments now possible that will pull in data from both sources. As we'll feature, the pre-packaged content packs and pre-built connectors simplify the process to connect data and get started. Content packs feature dashboards, reports, and datasets with content from the service focused on a specific scenario. And once connected, these can be customized as required. And there are ready-made content packs for services such as Click Dimensions, Microsoft Social Engagement, Google Analytics, Dynamics 365 apps, and many others. And those are all freely available on the Microsoft App Source. Power BI offers real-time reporting, which means we don't need to be consistently looking out of the rearview mirror at what has happened, and that helps shift data analysis to the here and now and have greater focus on predictive analytics that helps anticipate and prevent issues. Natural language queries mean that end users can type in questions about their data and get real-life answers through charts and graphics. When all that data exists in a business, trying to interpret that can feel overwhelming. With Power BI custom visualizations, that data can be presented any way that you want it, which means you can place the onus on using the data to tell a story and derive insights. And that can be very sophisticated. And one of Microsoft's examples that they like to sort of highlight is one for one of their clients, Rolls-Royce, who use Power BI to visualize the status of their jet engines using data to predict when maintenance is going to be needed based on the huge quantities of data that they're gathering across their fleet. And finally, Power BI integrates with Office 365, so users can work with this alongside other applications which they're familiar with, like Excel. Digital transformation is a priority for many businesses to ensure future competitiveness as they look to increasingly work with towards data-driven decision-making that transforms products, services, and processes. In many of the conversations that we've had with customers who've implemented Dynamics 365 during the last year, better business intelligence through Power BI has been a common theme. And by connecting CRM and other data sources to Power BI, it's enabled them to very quickly get new insights from their data that they never really thought was going to be possible. So I'm now going to pass the presentation across to Daniel, who will give us some demonstrations on the Power BI dashboards and charts. Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the introduction, Warren. I'm just going to open up my screen here for everybody. But 1 second while I do that. Thank you very much. Okay, so hopefully you can now see my screen. We'll basically be doing the demonstration in the Power BI online service today. So we're not going to be getting into any of the technical building of reports or anything else like that. It's just going to be a look around, the basic look around the system, stuff that we've added into, or Microsoft have added into Power BI over the last 6 or so months since we did the last webinar of this sort of thing. But I'm going to cover some of the basic stuff before we start. So if you're logged into Power BI, you'll have your area down the bottom here. And this is where you'll get access to all your content packs for the services that Warren spoke about in the introduction. So if I just click on to get here, we'll see all the available content packs for all the various cloud services and on-premise implementation services that you can connect to with Power BI. Some of the ones we're going to be looking at today involve, customer service, Dynamics 365. We might take a look at Google Analytics. The other sort of social engagement is again something to connect to these. You just click here, get it now, sign in with your username and password, connect it to your instance, and then Power BI does the rest of the work for you. It gives you a pre-built set of data queries and visualizations that will give you a sort of insight into that particular data set. So starting off here, if I head over to my favorites, we'll take a look at one of these to start with. So it's one of the old favorites. It's the Dynamics 365 Sales Manager. It's been updated since it was for CRM Online. But this now connects to Dynamics 365 Online and pulls back all these information points from the database. So for example, your lead qualification rate, your won revenue over time, your win rate of opportunities for leads, lead conversion rates and stuff. And this is all updating in real time from your database. So you can schedule all these sort of content packs to run on a daily refresh basis or an hourly refresh basis as is most appropriate to your requirements. So underneath all these data points in here, we've actually got a report built out. So if I click into one of these here, we'll see we're heading into the report phase. And we've got all the various tabs in the bottom here that again contain lots more information pulled from the Dynamics 365 sales area of the database. So as a starting point for someone looking to get sales-based analytics from Dynamics 365, the Power BI content pack for Dynamics sales is a good place to start. These can be configured. So obviously some people might have custom entities or custom fields on their forms. This is obviously a standard Power BI content pack, so it's only going to be using standard fields. And you can use this, you can get access to this data, you can pull this data in from the service back into the desktop if you want to then configure this further, but it operates as a good place to start for these sorts of reports. Similarly, on the other side of Dynamics 365, we've got the Dynamics, well, it's incorrectly called here, but the Dynamics 365 Service Manager. So again, this is now offering insights on case creation, trends over time, case owners, case activities, priorities, origins, that sort of thing, all refreshing directly from the Dynamics 365 database. And again, this has an underlying report running underneath it here. So we've got various bits of information as a standard, but you can obviously then customize this as is your want going forward for your basic service requirements. Okay, so some of the newer content packs that have been brought into this service over the last few months include things like social engagement. So just click into here. So this is the social engagement content pack. And this basically is concerned with actions and engagements from your users within social engagement. So if you're picking up posts from social engagement and converting them into CRM leads or cases, or responding to social posts or through dynamic social engagement, this sort of functionality will be there to pick that up and give you again insights on that sort of action. So from a marketing perspective, gives you a good view, and again, underlying report here. So we can see, your engagement analytics, your engagement performances, that sort of thing, all pull through from social engagement. As we can see here, we've got most of our social engagement authors are in the UK area, but there's some based in Europe, some based in the States. So it gives us a good view of all that data without actually having to go into social engagement and pull out that data into Excel, run our own analytics on that sort of thing. It's all pulled through in the content pack. Okay, so another one that's been added fairly recently since the event of Dynamics 365 is the Dynamics 365 process analysis work set. So if I just jump into here, so those of you who are on CRM Dynamics 365 will be familiar with the process stages, process bars that activate over any type of entity in the system. And this allows you to get analytics over time spent in stages, total durations in various stages. So you can run analysis over where are the, if you've got one on, for example, opportunities, where are the deals stalling in our opportunity set? If you're running on case management, where are the most of the time spent in cases? So in this case here, we can see the majority of the time spent in this particular instance is done in the case management structure in identifying the issue and investigating the issue. Once it's then got past that point, there's very little time spent in it. So that would make sense from a case management point of view, but we can see here actually 70% of the time spent on cases is that's exactly what you'd expect from a case management service management desk, but 70% of the time is spent investigating the case and resolving it. So again, gives you good insights into the various stages. And again, there's an underlying report that sits underneath the process management dashboard to give you more in terms of building out additional insights or visualizations that you might require. So that's just a couple of the newer availability, custom content packs availability from the content pack store. But other things that you might want to connect to from Power BI, it's not just all about Dynamics 365. If there's a data set that you want to run with analysis and give it access to people to run on, then Power BI can help you out with that. For example, an example of one here. So this is a data set connected to an email marketing solution. And we can see here, we've got analysis running on email clicks per month, year on year. So we can see how we're doing versus this time last year versus this time 2 years ago. Email sends year on year. So we can see what the volume of email we're sending out is as comparison to last year and the year before. So obviously in this June, the emails that has been sent out in this particular organization are way in excess of what's been done for the previous 2 years. We've got information pulling for unsubscribe rates, click keywords, so people clicking on emails, and obviously in this word cloud visualization here, this is an example of a custom visualization. Come on to those a little bit later. But in this visualization here, we can see the bigger the word is, the more often that thing gets clicked. It's nice to see webinar is the big winner there. But a good example of using other sorts of information to get analytics in Power BI. Other content packs that are available that aren't specifically Dynamics 365. For example, Google Analytics have a content pack that you can connect using your Google sign in. We'll connect to Dynamics 365 and give you live analytics from Google about your Google searches and your new users and all this sort of stuff, days of the week, unique page views. So we can see here, top page that gets searched in Google for our own website is the, unsurprisingly, how businesses benefit from CRM by quite a large fashion. And then obviously the homepage, and then our Dynamics 365 guide, which is one of our most popular assets that we have on the site. But all this pulls through from Google Analytics, no user intervention, this just happens. All you need to give it is your username and your password. Similarly, just to not be corporately unfair, Bing also have a content pack. So if you're one of the few people who use Bing as opposed to Google, then again, similar sorts of analytics available from Bing. This is a Bing analytics looking at Dynamics 365. So we can see here, search activity for Dynamics 365 over time, volume of searches in the last week, volume to, compared to the week before, and some news articles pulling in from Bing News, again, into that data set. So it's a bit of a mix, but this is an out-of-the-box content pack. Again, all you need to provide it with is a bit of information up front, and then Power BI does so for you. Facebook. So using the Facebook Graph API, you can connect to your Facebook page. Again, this is connected to our live page here, so I can see all the posts that we've done. Again, here, it's the post that happened today. Join us this afternoon for a live demonstration of Power BI. I can click on that page. I can see who liked that. Click on another instance here. I can see who liking all the various bits and pieces that we've got here. So this is connecting through the Facebook Graph API, pulling information in, and it's giving us analytics over our Facebook presence. Again, if I click down to down here, so this is posts over time, I can segment these things out to show us which posts we did, who liked those posts on certain days. So it's all that information is pulling in, and then it's just a case of establishing what sort of analytics you want to be getting out of the data that you've got. Looking at something else as a new content pack is the Office 365 adoption pack. So if you're Office 365 users and you're the IT admin or somebody in an IT position of interest in the company, interested in knowing actually who's using the products that you're paying for, then the Office 365 adoption preview, you'll need to obviously log in as an administrator in Office 365 and get all this information sort of on a plate for you out of the box. So if you're interested in, so if I click on here, it takes me through again to the underlying report that you get through here. Hopefully this is going to be nice and quick. There we go. So we can see at a glance how people are accessing their emails by in order of kind of decreasing as less people get involved with them. So obviously in our case, most people get their emails through Outlook, but quite a lot use their mobile, quite a lot use OWA. And again, the mobile clients are down here a little bit. So various other products in the Office 365. If I scroll across here, we can see all the various bits of information that pull through from that. So again, this is SharePoint, Exchange Online storage, OneDrive storage if we're using that, how that's going over time. We can pick up trends from that and use that in an IT management perspective. So a nice, again, free example of the sorts of things that the content packs will be able to give you. So moving on a little bit now, and we're going to talk about custom visuals. So this is something that started out quite quietly in the Power BI space, but has come on leaps and bounds since then. Previously, they were available on the Power BI website, but they've moved over to the Office store. So if you're looking for any custom visuals, so the out-of-the-box visuals for Power BI don't quite give you the sorts of information you need, then chances are you'll find something that will do in the custom visuals store in Power BI. These are all free. There's no paid. There's no paid for stuff here, but they call it the store. So make of that what you will. But one of the ones we're going to be looking at immediately here is the infographic designer, because that's quite an impressive one in terms of data visualization and getting people interested and interactive with the data. Just going to head over to this view here. So this is built using the infographic designer. We can see here obviously various charts, but they're various in this case. This is an example of wine consumption. So we can see here the consumption represented by bottles. In this case, there's the charts and glasses involved here to kind of make it a little bit more interesting for people to look at. Handset example here. So using a handset graphic, we're saying how many. You can see here there's the volume down the bottom here. So 100 million Android handsets, 120 million iOS handsets. Publishing example of that. So again, we're using a bookcase now as an example of how you can represent these bars of data, but in a more interesting, visually pleasing way. And again, piles of books here for publishers. So the infographic design is quite powerful in terms of building out interesting to view infographics. I'll just click over to this one here. You'll see one I knocked up this morning. So there we go. So we've got our little Preact logo here as now the graphic thing, and we can see the various supported users that we have inside the organization and the products that they're on. Instead of boring charts, we've got little Preact icons. So you can make these charts really interesting and engaging from a user's perspective, as opposed to just from a from a building perspective. It gives you a lot more interesting ways to build out these visualizations. Something else that's been added to Power BI since launch is the ability to use the ESRI or ESRI maps within Power BI. So there is a map control within Power BI, and it does sort of certain amounts of data and certain amounts of stuff, but it's not particularly customizable, or there's no way to switch. So for this example over here, I've got the same data set represented in 3 different ways using the same visualization. So here we've got this one's just showing on a very sort of pure, clean background locations of customers, prospects. I can zoom into this and see quite where they are. This one is the same visualization, but with a different background. So again, this is using now actual roadmap. And so if I zoom into here, we'll get sort of roadmap pulling through from Esri Maps. And on the last window here, we've got the idea of a heat map. So it's using the same data, but now it's representing that in a kind of a heat map style. Now, one of the benefits of this, if I click over to here and say, okay, well, I'm just interested in these 3 data points, I'll select these 3 data points, and then all the other maps, all the other visualizations on the page will update to only show those data points. So if you're doing, so maybe you're a rep out on the road, you know you're going to a specific area and you want to sort of single out anybody who's in that same particular area, just draw a little box around it, a little bounding box, and suddenly all the visualizations on the page will update to only show those variables. So again, a bit more powerful than the standard Power BI map control, and it's again something that you can sign up for either through the custom visuals thing or through the previews in the Power BI desktop. Okay, so we've looked at a few custom visuals. We're going to look at some examples of custom data now. So for this part of the demonstration, I'm going to be using the Edubase dataset, which is a freely available dataset of schools, colleges, organisations throughout the UK. And we can see here I'm using now the standard Power BI map here, so you can see how that's different. You can't really control the background in here, but for the purposes of this, it does the job fairly well. And again, we've got the infographic designer on this page showing us numbers of pupils represented by little people in the various school tiers that we're looking at. And if we click to a different area of the country, all the other charts and everything else will update. The map will zoom out and zoom back in. Now we're looking at East Sussex. So again, using a freely available data set, we're able to do analytics and look at various data points and pull out points of interest, data points of interest from that data set fairly easily using Power BI. However, one of the big improvements that Power BI has made over sort of the last maybe 6 to 9 months is the introduction of the natural language queries. So this sort of thing is all very well, and I can click through here, I can build my report, I can say, actually, no, I just want to see Hampshire, or I just want to see Church of England schools in Hampshire, and I can click into that and it will filter everything else down. But what if I want to know a little bit more about my data? I want to know something, I want to have a visualization that's not included within this data set. I don't have access normally to be able to build new visualizations in here. So I can ask a question about my data. So in this case, I'm going to ask a question about, I want to see which establishments are in my data set that have got a pupil capacity of more than 2,700. So we can see here how that's done. Saying show establishment name and capacity, where the capacity is greater than 2,700. I want that descending, and I want that in a custom column chart. And there we go. The system has provided me that from that definition. Has now provided me with that column chart for the various teaching organisations that fit within that parameter. So we can see here there are 9 that meet that criteria. And again, I've decided now, no, what I actually want is a pie chart showing me the type of establishment versus their capacity inside. So again, show capacity, type of establishment name is the field name in the query set, and the pie just says what sort of graphic I want. And now I've got that, I could now pin that back into my chart. So I'll pin that visual. So from that simple question, pin that on there, it goes onto my dashboard. And when I scroll down to my dashboard, we'll now have that chart created as part of my refreshing data set that I can then refer to just by asking a simple question in natural language rather than having to know code or anything else. So it's been a big improvement as far as interaction with Power BI. But some of the other things that they've added over the last month or so are these items at the top here. So for example, the usage metrics. I click on this as the owner of the data set. I can now see how people are engaging with the data set that I've created. So I can see here views per day, unique viewers per day, total number of views of that data set, total number of viewers, and how that data dashboard that I've got ranks against all the other dashboards in my organization. So it's fifth. This has been viewed the 5th most out of all the data sets in the organization. So it's a bit of more information, basically analytics about the analytics. But if you're interested in that sort of thing, again, that's freely available for you to use. Also, the performance inspector. So you might notice here, this particular report is a little bit sluggish, shall I say, in terms of, I mean, it loads up fairly quickly, and it's a lot quicker than using a standard report. It gives you much more functionality than that, but it does take a little bit of time to load. So if I click over to the dots icon here and go down to the performance inspector, this will give me tips about how to make my report load quicker. So you can see here, I've pinned a live report tile with many visuals from my dashboard. Live report tile with many visuals can slow down the loading, as we've seen there, can slow down the loading of the dashboard. Consider removing some of these and actually pinning them as tiles. So gives you quick, easy, so obviously checks my network latency down the bottom here. I've got a good connection. So obviously the reason that it's loading slowly, as you can see here by the little red dot, is because I've pinned a whole big report onto a dashboard. So if I built it out in the same way that they do with maybe, if we go back to the sales manager, we'll see that's built of little tiles, lots of little bits of information that it can load rather than having to load everything at once. So it gives a better responsiveness in terms of getting that data and using it. Okay, so last thing on my agenda for today is the idea of data alerts. And in order to demonstrate this, I'm going to need to go mobile. So we've got a couple of ways of doing this. I'll just pull this down here for a minute. So this is the Power BI app. Obviously, if you're on a tablet or a Windows 10 device or something else, this is something you could install from your appropriate app store. And I can go back and so I'm logged in here to the Azure audit logs. So again, this is another content pack. Looks at your Azure audit, and if you're an IT administrator with a subscription in Azure and you want to monitor the health and behavior of that over time, you can connect to this and have this dashboard on your device. Now, if I go into this warning tile here, it'll just say 8. Now, I might want to get a notification automatically when that breaches a certain amount of, so if it gets over 10 in a day, I want to get a notification of that. So I can actually now add an alert here. Condition is going to be, if this ever gets above 10, start flinging me alerts. So I'll get a notification alert. So on my iPad or Android tablet or whatever else, I'll get a little pop-up to say Power BI app says this is happening. And also, if I want to, I'll also get an email because it's connected into my 365. So I could also get an email pop through when that happens. And again, similarly on the phone experience for this sort of thing, if I just drag this one over, there we go. So again, phone experience, similar sort of interface, but if I, in this case, I'm going to go to the social engagement performance dashboard. Works very similarly. So if I go into my post with actions and I say I want to get a notification if this ever goes above, again, 30 or something, click into there. So you can have as many of these notifications as you think you're going to need, and you'll get notifications and or emails as required when these sorts of things happen. So they'd appear in your notification bar of your device. So if you're out and about, you're a salesperson, you're a service manager, out of the office, but you still want to know what's going on with your service desk, you want to get an alert. Maybe there's, I want to get notified when there's over 50 open cases or whatever, because I can then draft in some more people from another team to start getting that number down. You can build these notifications and alerts within Power BI to kind of bring that action and push that in front of you as a user. Okay, well that's 2:30. We've gone a fairly old, fast rate of knots through some of this stuff, but if you've got any questions about anything that you've seen or anything else, feel free, now is the time. And I'm going to pass back to Warren now. Thanks very much for your time.
Superb, thanks Daniel. Some really great visualizations there, and hopefully that's given you a good glimpse of Power BI and sort of showed you some good dashboards and charts that you could use in your own business to improve your reporting and analysis. So many thanks for joining us this afternoon. That concludes the presentation. If you do have any questions, please use the panel to ask those and we'll go through those. But if you are leaving us at this point, many thanks for your time.